Hello my friends and welcome to this video today. So in today's video I want to talk about some of the negative aspects of the photography business when you're working with clients. I want to do this because recently I got one of my very first basically negative experiences when it comes to working with paying clients. So yeah, I want to talk about the situation today and I want to talk about how I handled the situation. So obviously in this video I will not call out any names or any details, but I will tell you the story on what happened and what I have done about it. So if you're interested in that, feel free to stick around. Maybe you will learn something for your business as well. So let's go. So if you work with paying clients, no matter if you're a photographer or have any other business, at some point, and this is not a question of if, but a question of when, you will run into a problem with one of your clients. That can be multiple problems, but one very common issue are payment issues. This is honestly just a part of running the business, and honestly the photography business in itself, it is pretty safe, I believe, because you can decide on which customers you work with. You have most likely fewer customers which will pay you more money, and the customers that you have, you will talk with them beforehand. You know, you maybe will meet them in person and you can decide if you feel comfortable on working with them, because honestly, if you don't feel comfortable or if there just seems to be something off, you can tell them. I wouldn't necessarily tell your potential clients that you don't like them and they should f off, but honestly, you can tell them this in a very polite way. For example, you could say, I believe your expectation and my style of photography, they will not match, and you are better off when you search for another photographer who will fulfill your needs better than I can do this. So honestly, this is honest, direct, and you can tell your clients or potential clients in this case this, and this is something that you can do when you feel uncomfortable with someone, and I would definitely recommend doing so. It is way better than first accepting a client and an order and then you cannot deliver or something just isn't correct, they will not pay in the end or something like that. This is super annoying. So this is something that you can totally do. So now I will share the story with you and then I will tell you how I handled the situation. I don't know if this is the perfect way. You have to decide for yourself if this is a good way to do it, but as I said, in the end they paid me, so it was at least in this regard successful. So the story all began when around 6 weeks back I got a very last minute booking from a new client. And the job was to photograph a concert in my hometown, and it wasn't the biggest concert of all. You had around 3,000 viewers, I believe. And basically the concert wrapped around a group of singers and a huge chorus in the background. And honestly, except for the last minute booking, everything seemed totally legit. It wasn't like a shady backyard concert of some kind. I got in touch with the women from the management and I discussed everything with her. She gave me pretty clear instructions. She even gave me reference pictures on their website. She told me that they would love to have pictures similar to that. So everything seemed to be pretty straightforward for me. Because honestly, I'm not the most experienced concert photographer. I've done quite a few over the years, but there are people out there who are way more experienced than I am in the concert photography business. Nonetheless, when I have clear instructions like that, and because all my recent clients in the concert business, they were happy with the results every time, I felt totally comfortable with accepting that client and working for them and shooting this concert. It also was a really low budget assignment, honestly, because they booked me for 2 to 2.5 hours, and normally my hourly rate is around 180 to 200 euros per hour, and I have a minimum of 2 hours that I have to be booked basically to make basically somewhat of a profit from that. So we basically agreed on 450 euros for these 2 to 2.5 hours, which is honestly not much when it comes to professional photography, and it is actually near the bare minimum that I will basically accept for doing a job in the first place. But as I said, I wanted to have the experience, and so it was totally fine for me, and I accepted this job for 450 euros. And as I said, it was also a really last minute order basically, and this is also one of the reasons why I don't wanted any payment in advance basically. So they booked me basically on Wednesday and the concert was on the following Sunday. So then the shooting basically started. I arrived well on time, as I always do, to get a feel for the location, for the lighting there. And then the concert started and I took my shots, I went around, did a lot of different angles and, just enjoyed shooting the concert, honestly. However, this was the first situation basically where I felt something was off, because as I said, I was booked from 2 to 2.5 hours and the concert took way longer than that. Overall, I was there for over 4 hours, where I was booked for only 2. So this is a lot more than I was booked for. And normally what you could do in a situation like this is you could charge something extra, but I really do not like doing this because we agreed on the price beforehand, and I know I worked a lot more than they paid me for. But you know, for me as a photographer, it is more important basically to get good reputation, you know, to make the clients happy. Maybe even that you get recommendations to other people out there that you are a good photographer. And this is way, way, way more worth than like 200 euros extra for an hour there. So this is the reason why I normally, if the time frame that I booked for isn't exceeded too much, normally I will not charge you anything extra. So after the concert, it was basically business as usual. At the same evening, I sent them an email with the invoice basically, and also with the link to their personal online gallery where I will upload the picture. And here's a quick explanation on how I handle situations basically like that, because normally I will take a lot of pictures, and to edit them nicely, it will take some time, you know. It will take maybe 1 or 2 weeks depending on the situation. But normally what I will do is, as soon as I have the first pictures ready, I will upload them to this online gallery. So basically that the clients, they will have their first pictures like right away, or maybe 1 or 2 days after the event. And this is in today's world really important, I believe, and my clients are quite happy for that, because then they can start posting, for example, on social media. And as I said, this is important today. And if you have to wait like 2 weeks for your pictures, you know, you don't have to post anything on Instagram, for example, because the event is so long ago. So this is the reason why I'm doing that. And I will start out with like 20, 30, 40 pictures, and then I will upload on a daily basis, or as soon as I have more pictures ready basically. So after I sent them this invoice and the first batch of pictures, it took around 2 days and they replied to me. And what they said was basically that they do not like the pictures. They told me, you know, we do not like the pictures, and the only critics was that there weren't enough, basically angles and perspectives of the concert. And my honest reaction was that they were right. Honestly, they were totally right, 100%. I immediately replied to them and told them, hey, look, you are right, but please be a little bit more patient and please wait, because it is only like 10% of the pictures that I've took there that are already uploaded to the online gallery. So please wait until all pictures and all angles and perspectives are ready. And I also apologize basically for the inconvenience. I had told them my process of delivering the pictures beforehand, and they agreed on that. This is another story. So after I replied to this mail, I got to work, and I worked basically really hard to get them the pictures as soon as possible, so that they see that basically their critics wasn't necessary, and that they have a ton of different angles, and that the photos are exactly how they wished for. And basically after I uploaded all the pictures to the online gallery, I called them out again. I wrote another email, told them, hey, look, I have the pictures ready now, please take another look at them and give me your feedback. I'm really interested in that. And this is what I've done. But to both of my emails, I got no replies. You know, I didn't have any reply on email or telephone or WhatsApp, so nothing happened. And the days passed by, and you know, the 2 weeks payment goal basically approached really, really soon and was passed. And then I sent them an email again and asked again if they maybe want to tell me something, if they like the photos now. And I also very politely asked when I could expect the payment. And again, I got no reply at all. And this was the time when I started trying different methods. For example, I tried to call the women from the management, and I also tried to WhatsApp her. And basically I got no reply. And after some time, I got my first reply in weeks basically. And it was a WhatsApp message from the women from the management. And she told me, look, we don't like the pictures at all. Basically, we hate the pictures and we cannot do anything with them, and we have now to discuss internally what we will do. This was the only message I've got. And I immediately tried to call her back. I wrote her and said, you know, please tell me what is wrong with the pictures, you know? If they tell me what is wrong with the pictures, I can fix it, or maybe I can give them a discount, but they need to tell me what is wrong, why they don't like the pictures. And this was basically when this whole situation turned into a circle of excuses, if you want to call it like that, because sometimes, really rarely, sometimes I got this, women from the management on WhatsApp to reply to my messages. And basically she always told me, you know what, I don't know what's wrong with the pictures, the main initiator and the lead singer, who's basically responsible for the payment and the whole project, he is responsible, and basically that I should ask him. So I tried that. I tried to reach out to him and I contacted him. He did pick up the phone once and basically just told me, you know what, go to the woman from the management and she will tell you anything about it. But when I got to her again, she told me that she don't know anything because he is the one who is responsible for everything. So this was basically this circle there, which was very annoying. So now there will be somewhat of a controversial part of this whole story, because the business address of this main initiator, the responsible person for the whole project, I had this, it is an official address, everyone can watch this up on the internet, and I had also the address because of the invoice. So I had a different client there, a few miles away from that. So after I had done my job there, I decided I pay this guy, you know, the initiator, the lead singer, I pay him a visit. So I went to his location, I rang the bell, and he opened the door. But he wasn't really friendly, honestly, and he was very, very annoyed that I was there. He basically started shouting at me right away. In this situation, I could kind of understand this, honestly, because I just showed up at his location, basically, even though it is an official location. And yeah, basically I try to be very, very polite and very friendly to, you know, don't get him the feeling of, yeah, having someone aggressive in front of him, you know, who wants the money. I didn't even ask for the money. I just tried to ask him what was wrong with the pictures and if he would like to talk about that. But basically there was no real conversation possible because he just shouted at me and tried to, yeah, keep me away. And yeah, he told me that I should leave, and I obviously had to do this. I left then right away. But yeah, this conversation really did not bring a lot. But one positive thing about that was that I had a better connections to both of them after that, because they, yeah, constantly replied to my mails and my WhatsApp messages. Not always, but at least I didn't have to wait like for a week to get a reply on a single message, and this was basically a step forward in this whole process. But even though I had a little bit more of a conversation with them going on now, I still got no real answer on my questions, what they don't like about the pictures. At one point, the woman from the management basically told me that her boss, so basically, you know, the guy that I've visited, the main initiator of the whole project, that he wanted a discount because he didn't like the pictures. And then I again asked her, please tell me what is wrong with the pictures. Maybe I can fix it. Or if I know what is wrong and if you are right, then I can give you a discount for sure. But I got no reply to that at all. As I said, it still was the circle. I tried to call them both at some point, and I didn't got any real reply. They basically always just handed over the situations to each other and back, so yeah, it really didn't bring much there. So at this point, the 4 weeks legal payment basically period here, it was almost over. So the concert was around 4 weeks ago at this point, and I still hadn't received any payment or any real acknowledgement of the invoice in general, basically. So this is when I got really worried, honestly, that I wouldn't receive the payment at all. So what I've done is I tried to contact all the responsible people multiple times, sometimes even 1 or 2 times a day. And as I said, sometimes I got a reply, but most of the time I didn't get any reply. And they always told me, yeah, we will call you back, but this call would never happen. So yeah, it was just basically a tactic to keep me away. But I didn't stop there, so I still contacted them. And after this 4 weeks, I told them, you know, look, if you don't want to pay, I will take legal actions, maybe file a complaint because of fraud. I wouldn't necessarily do that because this is really difficult here in Germany. But for example, I could sell the invoice, the bill, to a money collection, debt collection company, which is totally official here, and you can do that. I didn't know if I would really have done that because, you know, the amount of money, 450 euros, it really isn't that much, and I don't know if that would be worth it. But I thought about that, and I told them that because, you know, I got annoyed as well. I always stayed really polite and really friendly when I talked to them, but I was, yeah, quite firm and told them, you know, I will take legal actions and this will basically not be accepted. And then 1 or 2 days passed, very little happened, and then I got a reply to one of my messages. It was an SMS message to the boss, to the main initiator of the project, and he replied, as I said, to one of my previously sent SMS to him, and he basically told me a few insults, you know. He told me that I would harass him, he told me that I'm a bad photographer, he told me that the photos are shit, but he told me that he would pay the money. And I again replied to that. I again said, you know what, you have to pay basically now, because if you do not pay this really fast now, I will take legal actions. And then again, he insulted me. And yeah, basically that was the end of the conversation for this day. But you know what? On the next day, on the early morning, on the next day, I received the payment finally. Over 4.5 weeks later, I got my payment. So they never talked to me again, basically. So this was basically the end of this whole story. And as I said, it was a happy ending, kind of, because, you know, I got my money, but the clients, they weren't necessarily happy with me. Obviously, they told me that. I still don't know what went wrong with the photos. The only thing that this guy told me in one of his basically insulting messages that he sent me was that the photos are not creative enough for him. And honestly, I cannot say anything against that, because that is something that depends on your personal liking. I can just say that my clients were basically always happy with my work. And when this whole situation started to unfold, I also contacted a fellow photographer who is more into the concert photography business than I am, and I asked him about some of the pictures. He told me that from a technical standpoint, the pictures are totally fine. And yeah, so with that, I cannot say anything against that. As I said, he might find the pictures to be not creative enough, I don't know. But nonetheless, he has to pay that. Or at least, if he really do not like the pictures, he should have told me that in the, basically in the very first days after all the pictures were finished and uploaded to the gallery. He could have told me that, and then I would have thought about giving him a discount or maybe do something else, edit them differently, but not after 4.5 weeks. So this is basically the whole situation and how I handled it. So now we will come to the last point of this video, and now I want to talk about what I think happened there and, you know, what you can learn from that. So basically what I believe, and as I said, this is my personal opinion, I don't know if this is true, but I have a strong theory about it. So I think the reason why they initially didn't pay was because I am basically a one-man business. You know, I am an independent photographer. I'm not a huge media company. I don't have, for example, a legal department where I have lawyers that can sue these guys like the moment they don't pay. So this will not happen, and they obviously knew that. I also did a bit of online research, and I found quite a few people there, honestly, from the audience of this concert that complained about, for example, not getting their money back after a concert was cancelled. In Germany, when you cancel a concert, you have to pay the money back, or you can give them basically a ticket to an alternative concert, you know, for a later date, for example, or stuff like that. So as I said, a lot of people said that they never got their money back. Some of them also called out like a fraud, and yeah, this is where I got really suspicious, honestly. So based on all of these facts, I believed that they just hoped that I wouldn't follow up. That if they tell me, okay, you know, we don't like the pictures, I would say, oh my god, please, you know, please don't write a bad review or stuff like that. I don't want the money anymore. And this is honestly not what happened. I don't know if this is good or bad, we will see. I haven't received a negative review until now from him, but you all know reviews on Google, for example, they are really important, and you know, I don't want to have negative reviews. So as I said, I just stayed very persistent throughout all of this 4 weeks. It took me honestly a lot of time and effort, but in the end it was kind of worth it. So feel free to let me know in the comments below if you think what I've done was the correct way, or if you think it was too aggressive, or yeah, if you have a different way of dealing with clients like these. So yeah, I'm really interested in that one. After all, what I wanted to say in the end, and I want to end this video on the positive note, is that basically 99% of clients that you will get when you start out your photography business, they will be great. They will be great people, very friendly. You will have an amazing time with them, a lot of fun. It is a great job. So yeah, this is very, very small percentages of basically negative experience that you will gather over the years, but do not let this discourage you. And so with that said, I thank you so much for watching this video today. I have a ton of other videos about photography related topics over on my YouTube channel, so feel free to check that out as well. But for now, I wish you a great day, I wish you a great week, and I hope I see you in next week's video. So see you then, and goodbye.